According to bombshell new reporting from the Detroit News, which I'll link in the post description of this video, Donald Trump was recorded personally pressuring two Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers in Michigan not to sign the certification of the 2020 election. Also on the November 17th, 2020 call was RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel helping Donald Trump pressure Republican Wayne County canvassers Monica Palmer and William Hartman that they would look, quote, terrible if they signed the document certifying the 2020 election. McDaniel told the canvassers, quote, if you can go home tonight, do not sign it. We will get you attorneys. To which Trump added, we'll take care of that. And that's exactly what happened, as both Palmer and Hartman left the canvassers meeting without signing the official statement of votes for Wayne County. The next day, they also tried to rescind their votes in favor of certification, filing legal affidavits claiming that they were pressured. Their attempt to rescind their votes was ultimately unsuccessful. Had they succeeded, they could have threatened the entire statewide certification in Michigan, which of course is what Donald Trump ultimately was seeking to do. According to a Trump campaign spokesman, Trump's actions, quote, were taken in furtherance of his duty as President of the United States to faithfully take care of the laws and ensure election integrity, including investigating the rigged and stolen 2020 presidential election. President Trump and the American people have the constitutional right to free and fair elections. Which is true that Trump and the American people have the constitutional right to free and fair elections, but what they don't have the constitutional right to is illegal interference in that election, and that's what Trump, and arguably Ronna McDaniel here, have done. And to that point, the article also notes that Ronna may have legal exposure herself for offering these Republican canvassers something, in this case legal protection, in exchange for them not doing their jobs. According to Chris Thomas, a lawyer who served as Michigan's elections director for more than 3 decades, quote, offering something of value to a public official to not perform a required duty may raise legal issues for a person doing so. In which case, you could add Ronna to the list of other Trump acolytes and lawyers whose lives have been turned upside down as a consequence of this broader election theft scheme. Looking at you especially, Rudy Giuliani. Also, when Trump's campaign spokesman says that Trump's actions were taken in furtherance of his duty as president, give me a break. Nowhere in the presidential oath does it allow for pressuring local election officials not to certify the election results because you want to anoint yourself the winner of an election that you lost. In fact, Trump had the opportunity in court to litigate the claim that fraud occurred, and he didn't win a single case out of the more than 60 cases that took place. Not one. So he might want there to have been fraud, but you don't get to break the law in furtherance of fraud that doesn't exist. And by the way, they tried the same thing in Georgia, and when that special purpose grand jury recommended indictment for Trump, they noted in the special grand jury report, quote, the grand jury heard extensive testimony on the subject of alleged election fraud from poll workers, investigators, technical experts, and state of Georgia employees and officials, as well as from persons still claiming that such fraud took place. We find by a unanimous vote that no widespread fraud took place in the Georgia 2020 presidential election that could result in overturning that election. In other words, it was so clear that no fraud took place that it was even included in the report so that it was a fact of the case. In Georgia, Trump isn't even allowed to bring up that defense because it's already been so thoroughly debunked. And the same exact thing holds true in Michigan as well as every other state across the country. These claims of fraud are not real. They were nothing more than a predicate to illegally subvert the election results. In fact, we learned from the January 6th committee hearings that Trump was told numerous times by his own White House lawyers and even his own attorney general that there was no fraud in the election, meaning he can't even claim he didn't know the truth because we already have firsthand testimony that he did know, meaning everything he chose to do thereafter had absolutely zero justification. He simply wanted to cheat in the election to illegally retain his grip on power. Here's some of that testimony that blows a hole in Trump's entire defense.
So do you know what the examples of fraud, numbers, names, and supporting evidence was that you sent to Mo Brooks's office? And when I say you, I mean you or the campaign.
There are some very, very general documents as far as say, for example, here are the handful of dead people in several different states. Here are explanations on a couple of the legal challenges, as far as saying that the rules were changed in an unconstitutional manner, but it was to say that it was thin is probably an understatement.
My recollection is the president said something like, well, we could get to the bottom. Some people say we could get to the bottom of this if the department sees the machines. It was a typical way of raising a point. And I said, absolutely not. There's no probable cause, and we're not going to seize any machines. And that was that.
Yeah. Attorney General Barr made a public announcement on December 1st, less than a month after the election, that he had seen no suspended fraud sufficient. But fair to say that by December 1st, you had reached the same conclusion?
It's fair to say that I agree with Attorney General Barr's conclusion on December 1st. Yes, I did, and I supported that conclusion.
I assume, Pat, that you would agree the president is obligated to abide by the rulings of the courts.
Of course.
And I assume you also would...
Everybody is obligated to abide by rulings of the courts.
And I assume you also would agree the president has a particular obligation to take care that the laws be faithfully executed.
That is one of the president's obligations, correct.
I want to start by asking if you agree, Mr. Cipollone, with the conclusions of Matt Morgan, of Bill Barr, of all of the individuals who evaluated those claims, that there is no evidence of election fraud sufficient to undermine the outcome in a particular state.
Yes, I agree with that.
Did you believe, and Mr. Cipollone, that the president should concede once you made the determination based on the investigations that you credited DOJ did and the campaign did? Did you, in your mind, form a belief that the president should concede the election loss at a certain point after the election?
Well, again, I was the White House counsel. Some of those decisions are political, so to the extent that, but if your question is, did I believe he should concede the election at a point in time? Yes, I did. I believe Leader McConnell went onto the floor of the Senate, I believe in mid-December, and basically said, the process is done. That would be in line with my thinking on these things.
So again, this idea that Trump wasn't aware that he'd lost flies in the face of clear and definitive testimony from his own White House officials that he'd already been told that there wasn't sufficient fraud to contest the election results. So when he uses that debunked claim as a predicate to then pressure state officials into not certifying the results, he has no legal protection because clearly he knew better. So you can be assured that this will factor into Trump's ongoing prosecutions, and we also may see new litigation surface in Michigan, which would only add to the 91 criminal charges that he's already contending with. As I like to say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.